I'm Lin.
And I'm Leo. Welcome back to our channel and our 30 days of yoga.
Yes, we're on day 25. So if this is the first time you've viewed our channel, then get on your mat and come and join us. We're starting with Adho Mukha Virasana. Many of you will be familiar with the sequencing now. Coming into a kneeling position. As you can see, Leo's here, and she's just going to go through some of the equipment that you're going to need for some of the other poses.
You see we've got a bolster here, a yoga bolster. If you haven't got a yoga bolster, don't worry about it. If you've got a firm pillow, that will do quite nicely. I've got a couple of zafu cushions here, but you can use ordinary cushions for this, two the same size, and then we've got a folded blanket over there. So it's a little bit of, extra equipment to what you normally have. You can use a folded towel. Sometimes you can use a flattish cushion instead of that blanket, but you will need something equivalent to a bolster, two cushions, and a blanket.
Okay, so coming to your kneeling position, be on your mat, and coming into your Adho Mukha Virasana, coming forward. So you can see here, before Leo came into this position, she put her hands on the front pelvis. So the frontal pelvic rings, just to get that understanding of lift. It's almost as if you're lifting up and over a blanket. So get that action, extending to your palms, extend back with your abdomen, extend those buttocks back so that you're getting the full range of action through the spine. You want to see that you lift your back ribs, and soft inhalation and soft exhalation. It's a lovely way to start your practice so that you can just get into the zone, observe the senses, quieten the mind, and be aware of your breath. Still keeping the length, extending and grounding into the back buttock. Coming for Adho Mukha Svanasana, dog head down, tuck your toes under, look forward and come up into the action. So you can see here with Leo, she's getting the length, the extension, but remember that we always work from the base up. So the palms need to be absolutely grounded towards the earth side. Lock your elbows and lengthen through the upper arms. Once you get this full extension through the spine, lifting the lower abdomen, see that you're pushing those thighs back. So you've got to squeeze those bones into the back thigh muscles. It's almost as if you're squeezing the air between the two, completely away, dissolving the air between the muscle and the bone. So keep that action, extending back, lifting those knees and pushing those shins back. And eventually you'll get so much connection with the front of the thigh that the soles of the feet will lengthen, extending further and further towards the end of the mat so that you extend the heels down. Eventually this will come. Coming for Urdhva Mukha Svanasana, we've practiced this for the last few days, for the last week now, so extend forward into your back bend in action. Be sure you keep your legs absolutely straight and strong. Be strong on those arms, plant down strongly with those palms and lift through the sideways. Lift all the way through to the armpit and be aware that as you breathe, you're extending those collarbones from the inside to the outer shoulder region. See that if you are able to come onto the tops of the feet, then do so, and still maintain that lift through the front of the body. The lower back region, you need to see that you're getting this length this way from the tailbone towards the thighs, but also broadening the centre buttock to the bone. So the centre of the buttock really needs to go towards the bone side so much. Coming back into Adho Mukha Svanasana, dog head down, lifting up. Yes, coming into this position. So we're not going to stay so long here because we're going to look forward and step or jump the legs for Uttanasana. Yes. So those of you who are familiar with this action, you should be now if you've been following us, then come to your Uttanasana so that you're able to stay. And that may mean that you just have to get in touch with the tightness in your hamstrings and become aware that perhaps you need to put your hands onto a couple of bricks. The shins or the thighs would also work quite well if you haven't got any yoga equipment. But otherwise, if you're in this position, you can lift through the front thigh. Remember the forward bend, come to really strong, grounded legs. And from there, the soft tissue fibre will lift through the front of the thigh and create that forward bend in the frontal hip region. So be aware of that the abdomen is not leading the pose. Don't let that abdomen poke out, but as it reaches towards the spine and then directs the spine to lengthen forward. If you are able to take those hands back, you can do that. And you notice here that actually with this action, you've got to challenge the skin of the back thigh towards the back waist. This action has got to happen, so be mindful you don't fall over in this pose. So just take it to that challenging point where you feel the weight is going forward, but then instead of keep on going forward, you've got to lift up with those thighs. So we're coming out of this pose now. Look forward, create that length through the spine, through the front body, put your hands onto your frontal hip bones and lift up. Nice, soft inhalation and exhalation. Be in your Tadasana. And again, as we've mentioned before, you can practice that sequencing to warm the body up several times. We're only going to do it once today, but we just like to add a few poses each day so that you get into the habit and discipline of your practice. It's not too long, so it's manageable. I want to see that you breathe now in your Tadasana, being aware of the base of the body, lengthening through the legs and lifting through the frontal body. Soft inhalation and exhalation. So Tadasana is a pose where we come back to absorb all those wonderful feelings, sensations in the body through yoga practice. We're coming to the floor work now. So we're coming for Upavistha Konasana. Upavistha Konasana. This is when we take the legs wide, and we're just going to give you a few options here. So the first option, you can sit on the floor for sure and take the legs into the wide-legged action. But otherwise, you can place, this is more common, is to fold a blanket and have the corner of the blanket onto the base of the tailbone. So this is quite a common way of practicing. So you can just hook that tailbone there. The other way, if you're very, very stiff in the hips, then you can take your bolster and sit in the center of your bolster so it supports the back of the thigh. And this is a really nice method of working if you've got difficult stiffness or arthritic hips, or you're just completely new to yoga and it's really difficult with those inner legs. It's unbearable for some people to actually take their legs into this position, but taking the body up onto the bolster will help. And you can see here Leo's sitting in this position so that you can see the extension. So we're only doing the seated action today, and again, remember there's those options if you have no equipment, sit on the floor, but make sure that those legs are grounding down.
Shall I show from the back with the corner of the back of it? Because that might be quite helpful.
Yes, absolutely. We do have a video on Upavistha Konasana and in different ways of going into it. So you can always refer to that video on the channel. So you can see here you're just right on the edge of the bolster. You can also use the corner of a foam block if you've got some yoga blocks, then that's quite a nice way of working. And you see here Leo's coming into the position. And what we're asking for today is just the seated action. Just the seated action. The full action is coming forward for sure, but you need to see that you're getting that abdominal support in the lower abdominal area. So you have to see that the lower abdomen supports the spine, and from there you're lifting up inside.
I'm just going to turn to face you again. It's not very nice. Bring my back to you.
So Leo's going to demonstrate. There's so much to remember in this seated position. It's such a good action, but needs to come from a very good base. So when you're extending and you're taking the legs into Upavistha Konasana, you have to see that the thighs are grounded completely down and there's no gaps between the backs of the knees and the floor. This is the most common thing, and it doesn't change overnight. It changes with consistency of practice. So we have to remember that we have to be very patient with the change. And the extensions throughout the leg, you've got to extend those heels as if you're extending them to the wall. Again, strong legs, rounded bones, and from that you can get the fulcrum to lift up through the front of the body. And just be in this position. You can sit in this position from 1 minute to 5 minutes, just to get the feel of the grounded action of the legs and the extension through the centre of the body. You can see here, Leo's opening the chest and moving those shoulders back. Good. We're going to come out of the pose. So the longer you sit in it, the complete beginners, you'll find that coming out of the pose is a nice thing, but also you'll feel the inner thighs, the wholeness. So don't overdo it, don't overstretch. Okay, so we come for a Baddha Konasana action. So this is going to be supine. You can do this on the floor if you haven't got any yoga equipment, so don't panic about that. But we're just going to come into a really nice relaxing version of Supta Baddha Konasana with more restorative action. Be sure that the tailbone is extending towards your heel side when you sit in Baddha Konasana. And not only that, you have to remember that when you come into this action, if you know you're really stiff, that you support the outer thighs, because when you support them, you can use foam blocks, a couple of cushions, whatever you've got hanging around really. Once you're supported, then everything starts to settle. This is in the restorative version. If you're on the floor, then it's a little bit more difficult to maintain. So when you go back, just go back slowly, keep the lift through the chest, keep the opening of the chest, and gradually go down. And just rest the back of the head onto the blanket. You can see this is a very nice action. Just be aware of your breath, soft inhalation and exhalation. So just remember at this stage, I know most of you are complete beginners or beginners and new to yoga, that when you practice yoga, it's very important that you release the tension in the muscles. The muscles do not move when they're tense. So the muscle fibre is restricted if you're holding your body in a tense way. So we use these poses to release the tension, not only in the physical body, but also mentally, being aware of the breath and becoming aware of you in this position. So soft inhalation and exhalation. And this is a pose where you can stay for a long period of time. We always enjoy Supta Baddha Konasana. It's such a nice pose. It's lovely on the nervous system. It's very good with any digestive disorders because you have space in the abdomen. And also it's very settling and re-energizing. So when you're feeling a little tired and you need to rest the nerves, then this is a really good pose to practice. You can stay in this pose for a little longer. Don't let us disturb you in any way. But we are actually coming towards the end of our sequencing. So for sure you can join us in Svanasana or you can stay in Supta Baddha Konasana. And Leo is very, very happy being in this position.
She's reluctant to get up out of this. She is
very reluctant to come out of this action.
When you come out slowly, roll to your right. And try not to make any jerky movements. Keep everything soft, quiet. It's such a lovely pose to do. So don't spoil the benefits that you get by rushing out of it.
Yes, and that's really sound, good advice. And what I would say also is that when you practice your yoga, doesn't matter how many poses you do, it may be many, it may be just a few, but just take time to either lie in your Shavasana or sit in Sukhasana and just take a few moments to absorb before you start to interact with the world again. So it's very important that you come into this quiet mode and just be aware of yourself, be aware of your breath, be aware of your seated or your supine position. Just take a few breaths with us now in Sukhasana. Be aware of the quietness in the face, quietness in the throat, and the softness of the breath. You can go on observing this position for the next few moments.
Yes, these actions that Lynn's talking about, this is what transforms yoga from being just a form of calisthenic exercise or gymnastics into being something that's in the mind-body interface. It does transcend the two, so it becomes a mental focus and practice as well as a physical.
So carry on enjoying your yoga. We're going to finish the sequence in now. Namaste.
Namaste.